أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So as you know, we started Hadith number 20 last week. The week before that, sorry, we had a break in between. So I'm just going to read the Hadith one more time and just ask you a few questions to recap to see if you remember what we talked about last time. So the Hadith in English is: on the authority of Abu Mas'ud Uqba ibn Amr al-Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find are, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish, recorded by Al-Bukhari. So the actual, you could say the main words of the hadith are, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. This is something easy for you to remember, so you can try and memorize it, inshallah. So can anyone repeat to me and tell me what is the name of the narrator?
Abu Mas'ud Uqba bin Amir bin Talaha.
Al-Ansari. So Abu Mas'ud Abdullah ibn Uqba ibn Amr al-Ansari. What was he also known as? There's something that they used to add to his name.
Al-Badr.
Al-Badri.
Badri.
Right. So what does that mean when you call somebody Badri?
He has taken part in the battle of
Yeah.
Badr.
So normally it means,
even though he didn't.
Yeah, normally it means he's participated in Badr. But in his case, he had not participated in Badr. Why was he referred to as Al-Badri?
Because he stayed in the Badr for some time.
That's right.
He was not able to take part because he was a young combatant.
Yes, that's right. Very good. So he was very young at the time of Badr, so he was probably not allowed to participate. But he spent some time staying or living in the area of Badr, which is why he's known as Badri. Do you remember what tribe he belonged to?
Khazraj.
Yes, very good. He belonged to the tribe of Khazraj. Can you tell me one or two key things you remember about him? There was something very important I mentioned about him that he participated in.
Pledge of Aqaba.
Yes, very good. He took part in both the pledges of Aqaba, the first one and the second one. So he was amongst those few companions the first time, and then he was amongst the 70 the second time around. So he took both the pledges of Aqaba. Do you remember how many ahadith he has narrated?
100.
About 102. Okay. And there is ikhtilaf about where he died, but what are the two places that people think that where he died?
My pronunciation may be wrong, sister. Muawiyah and Kufa.
So no, they think either he passed away in Kufa or he passed away in Medina. And politically, who was he on the side of? When the fitna took place.
Ali radiallahu.
Yes, very good. He was on the side of Ali radiallahu anhu. Okay, so just to recap about the narrator. There are two aspects or two main components of this hadith. Do you remember what they are? You can write in the chat box as well if you want to.
shyness and shame.
So shyness is
And
one of the things. What is the other important thing that we see in this hadith?
haya,
No, that is the same thing, shyness and haya.
Atir Rasul. Taqwa and obedience to Allah. Atir Rasul followed the previous prophets.
Yes, very good. That this is something that has come down from the previous prophets. So as you know, in the words of the hadith, it says, from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find are, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. So this is a very important and interesting aspect of this hadith, that this is actually a message that has come all the way down from all the Anbiya down to the Prophet ﷺ. So I will, towards the end, I will, tell you some, I will give you some information which will tie, all of this information together. Okay, so that's very important, that this is a, you could say, like a core message or a common message that all the prophets preached, and it's come all the way down to the Prophet ﷺ. Just like we said that, some of the key words you find in the Quran are وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا, right? A lot of the messengers, they preach the same words to their followers. And so this is a common concept that, all the messengers or prophets or Anbiya have preached to their people. The next part of the hadith, which, like we said, is shame or shyness. And we said that these words of the Prophet ﷺ, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. We said there are three main interpretations of this. Can anyone tell me briefly what each one of them are?
If nobody's answering, this is a threat.
Yes, right. So the first interpretation is that it might be like a threat. And if you remember, I gave you the example of mother and child. And I said that, sometimes your child comes and says to you that, can I do such and such? And you say no. And then they keep asking. And then you say, do what you want. So when you say do what you want or do as you please, you're not necessarily saying do what you want, right? It's almost like a threat. It's almost like do this and then see what happens. But you're not saying that. You're just saying, okay, do what you want. So the first interpretation is that it's like a threat, that if you feel no shame, then do as you like, meaning to say that if you're not ashamed and you do whatever you want to do, then you should be prepared to face consequences from Allah, whether it's punishment or Allah's displeasure or whatever it might be. So the first interpretation is that it is a threat. Sorry, before I carry on with this, remember I said to you that Imam Nawawi said that Islam revolves around this statement. So how did we say that haya is you could say like that the whole of our deen, it revolves around haya? How did we explain that? Does anyone remember?
Important part is taqwa, and shyness prevents us from sinning. At the same time, it helps us to do work to seek the pleasure of Allah. So it helps us to do good things.
Okay, right. So we said that basically Iman has two components, right? One is to do good deeds, and the other is to avoid sins. And we said that haya, it helps you to do both. So when you are shy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are shy to sin, right? You are shy to commit actions or do those actions which are displeasing to Allah, right? You're ashamed or you feel embarrassed to do that. So haya prevents you from sinning. And at the same time, for example, when you're giving sadaqah, when you're doing extra nawafil, when you are doing any good action, you are shy to do it badly or to do very little of it, because your shyness almost like pushes you to do better, to do more. So for example, you're giving sadaqah to someone and you're looking in your purse, right, and you pick out a few coins, and then you feel almost embarrassed that I'm giving this for the sake of Allah. How can I just give a few coins? So you take out a little bit more and you give it for the sake of Allah. So it's your shyness from Allah that has caused you or encouraged you to do more than you were about to do. So whereas if you're not shy and conscientious, then you will just do the minimum, and you won't even pay attention to the quality of your action, or the amount that you did. Or similarly, I gave you the example of praying, for example, praying duha or praying tahajjud, right? You do 2 rakahs and then you almost feel shy, and you think, how can I just do 2? Let me at least do 4. It's just that shyness and having that feeling embarrassed in front of Allah, and feeling that I can't just do this much, I should do more. It's just like when I gave you the example as well of when a guest comes to your house, you don't just feel happy or comfortable to just put, for example, some biscuits in front of them. You think, how can I just serve them biscuits? Let me have a drink, and let me make a cake, and let me fry something, and it's that shyness that pushes you to do a bit more. So similarly, when we're shy in front of Allah, we try to do more, and we try to do better. So that's how we explained that haya is basically all of iman, or our deen. It revolves around these words. Okay, so what's the second interpretation of this hadith, of these words of if you feel no shame, then do as you wish?
Permissibility.
Yes, very good. Okay, so permissibility, can you explain that? How is it permissible?
That once you are doing something, like if you're sinning, so go on sinning. Later on, Allah will.
So that is that is an example of the threat. Permissibility is basically saying that if the action you're about to do is not a shameful action, and you're not ashamed to do it, and you're not embarrassed to do it, then go ahead and do it. For example, like let's say I want to recite Quran. So reciting Quran is it's not a shameful action. I'm not embarrassed to do it. So I will sit down and recite Quran, for example, right? So that's permissibility. So it's almost like saying that, if you feel no shame, so if there is no shame in that action, then do as you wish. Then, it's up to you to do it or to leave it. What's the third interpretation?
Factual statement.
Yes, very good. Can you explain that?
It's like if a person lacks shame, he or she will do whatever he wants.
Yes, that's right. So that is just making a statement that people who are shameless, they do whatever they want to do. That is like just making a statement, right? That if you have no shame, you do as you wish. So that's the third interpretation. So very good. Those are the 3 interpretations we discussed last time. That it's a threat, it's a factual statement, and it's permissibility, or allowing you to do any action that you're not ashamed to do. And if you remember, we said that with the permissibility interpretation, we added that if you are not embarrassed to do it in front of people, then it should be okay for you to do it when you're alone. But we said that sometimes a person might lose that sense of shame. So they might not really care what people think anymore, and it might still be a shameful action, but you might still do it. Anyway, I don't want to confuse you further, as long as you understand these 3 main interpretations. So I just wanted to elaborate on a couple of points before I start what I wanted to discuss today. So when Imam Nawawi said that all of Islam revolves around this hadith, there is another way of understanding this statement, and it's a very profound way of understanding this statement actually. Because there are 5 main actions in Islam, right? There is obligatory actions, then there is voluntary, then there is actions which are referred to as mubah, which are permissible, then there is makruh, and there is haram, right? There are these 5 main categories of actions. So if you think about it, haya is going to prevent you from doing what is haram. Okay, it's going to make you feel shy or embarrassed in front of Allah to do what is haram and to disobey Allah. And if you are really, really shy and really conscientious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will also think twice before doing anything that is makruh, right? You'll shy away from makruhat, even though they are not haram, but your shyness will prevent you even from that. As well as preventing you from doing forbidden deeds, when it comes to permissible deeds, you will be shy not to perform them, right? So if something is fard, you will feel obliged to do it. And when something is voluntary or, sunnah, for example, you will feel shy to leave it. So you pray your fard, for example, and then you feel almost embarrassed or ashamed or shy to just get up and leave. You feel that, okay, let me at least do a few rakahs of sunnah. Or let me sit down and do some adhkar before I get up and leave. So you see how your haya is helping you to do obligatory and voluntary, helping you to keep away from makruh and haram. And as for the permissible actions, you will be shy to perform them or to not perform them, depending on the nature of that that permissible action. So your shyness will actually help you to do the right thing in with those permissible actions as well. And so you can see how profound his statement was, Imam Nawawi's, when he said that our entire religion revolves around shyness or around this statement. Okay. Another interesting thing to note is that, we see again the Prophet ﷺ's eloquence when he would speak. And we see that how he would capture people's attention before he delivered his message. So rather than just come and say, if you are not shy or if you are not ashamed, then do as you wish. Rather than just say that, because it's a very brief statement, right? How does he capture the people's attention? How do you think?
The previous prophets have been saying.
Yes, very good. So he starts by saying that all the previous prophets, this has come down from them. And when he says a statement like that, you can imagine everybody is, now attentive to hear what is it that has come down from all the previous prophets. Now everybody's very keen to hear this message. And then he delivers the message and he says that, if you are not shy, then do as you wish. إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. So that's another interesting aspect of this hadith. Okay, so coming to what we wanted to study today is the concept of haya. And as you know, it's translated into so many different words: modesty, shyness. Just trying to look at which other words were used to translate this. Yeah, so basically those words. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said a very profound statement where he links haya to iman. Okay, and this is very important for you to understand. So Umar ibn al-Khattab said, if a person has little haya, he will have little wara. And the one who has little wara, his heart has died. Do you remember I told you the meaning of the word haya? So we said that the word haya, which is also similar to haya, which is life, right? Like when we say hayat ad-dunya. Okay, so the word haya, which is life, is so similar in sound to haya, which is shyness. And we explained last time and said that just like water, which is also referred to as haya, water gives life to the earth, and it, if the earth is dead or the vegetation is dead, water brings it back to life. Similarly, haya or shyness, it gives life to the heart. And so if you lose that shyness and you lose that haya, your heart potentially dies. Okay, so now what is wara? Does anybody know what wara means?
Back?
Sorry?
Back? They're putting
Beg.
something
No.
your backside, yeah.
No. Oh, that wara. No, not back. Yeah, I understand what you mean. No. Okay, so wara is basically a very strong feeling of the presence of Allah. Okay, and it's accompanied with a sense of taqwa or a fear of Allah, and being extremely conscientious of Allah's presence. Okay, that is wara. And you could say almost like prioritizing Allah. Okay, so wara is this extreme sense of conscientiousness of Allah. And Umar ibn al-Khattab is saying, if a person has little haya, he will have little wara. So he's saying that if your haya is less, then your conscientiousness of Allah is also less. And this is something very, very important, because I think haya is very underrated and we don't give it the importance that it deserves, but it is so important. And then he said, and the one who has little wara, the one who is very mildly conscientious of Allah, his heart has died. Okay, so you can see how crucial it is to have haya. And why do you think haya is linked to wara in this way? Or what effect do you think it has? How do you think the conscientiousness of Allah goes up and down with our sense of haya?
Iman goes up and down.
Yes, iman goes up and down, but I mean, if we're talking about wara is basically, you could say, very, very similar to taqwa. It's the conscientiousness of Allah. It's like being, it's like almost feeling Allah's presence. That is wara. So how is that fluctuating with our sense of haya? So, if you are extremely shy, one of the things that indicates is that you are also extremely conscientious, or you constantly have this feeling of being in the presence of Allah. Okay? And obviously that is what encourages you to do good things and protects you from doing bad things. So it doesn't matter if there's anyone around you or not, whether you are in public or in private. That sense of haya, you can see how it affects your wara, or your sense of being in the presence of Allah, and so it guides you and guides what you do and how you do things. Okay? And it keeps you within Allah's obedience, and it protects you from sinning. I think today what we would refer to this as is our moral compass. Okay? And our moral compass is affected by our haya, right? So you can imagine, for example, like this whole movement nowadays, of homosexuality and transgender and LGBT and etc., right? A lot of people have lost their moral compass, which is why these things don't alarm them anymore, and they don't find them strange, and it's almost like, it's totally acceptable, because they don't have a moral compass. And when you don't have a moral compass, you basically will do anything, right? There's nothing wrong with incest, there's nothing wrong with zina, there's nothing wrong with transgender, there's nothing wrong with anything anymore when you lose your moral compass. And so basically, if you don't have haya, you don't really care what anybody thinks or anybody says. You will just do whatever you want to do. And that's why, where this statement fits in, where Umar ibn al-Khattab said that if a person has little haya, he will have little wara. And the one who has little wara, his heart has died. And so you can see that these people who have accepted anything and everything, they really have dead hearts, and they don't really feel anything anymore. And I mean, apart from, looking at the people, and this is an extreme example what I'm giving you in terms of society, we need to ask ourselves as well, within our lives, within our actions, are we doing anything which is questionable, or which is objectionable, but we are still doing it? So we need to look into our lives and into our homes and our families and ask ourselves that, are we doing anything objectionable, and we don't really think twice about it? Because if we are, then that indicates that our haya has gone down, and that's why we have become less conscientious of being in Allah's presence. So basically, we're losing our moral compass. The other thing about haya, when we discuss the concept of haya, is how haya is the attribute that distinguishes a human being from an animal. So when you think about animals, you see that when they need to relieve themselves, they will just go and relieve themselves. When they want to mate, they will just go and mate, right? They don't think about covering themselves or concealing themselves, or they don't have this sense of haya, right? They just do what they have to do. Like if you see a cat cleaning itself, the cat is licking his, where he wheezes from, where he poos from. He will just sit in front of everyone and he will just lick himself and clean himself. So the cat does not, does not have any shame or shyness. So this is the thing that distinguishes us from animals. So when we become so careless about being shy or having shame, we're moving closer and closer to being like animals, right? Because like I said, that this is the distinction between animals and humans, is shame and shyness, right? And so, the less haya a person possesses, the closer he comes to the level of an animal. And you can see that today we are technologically advancing, but we're morally digressing, right? And so although we've made so much progress in so many areas, but when we think about our morals and our moral compass, it is really going down fast. When you see the kind of things that are happening, and they're absolutely normal. Even for example, TV shows, right? If you think about some of the stuff that they show on TV, like, what they call these reality shows. I'm not 100% sure what they are and what runs in them, but I have some idea. I think, I think these are like cameras that are just constantly on people, right? So they're sleeping, eating, whatever they're doing, the camera's constantly filming them. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that when you see things like that, and I'm mentioning just a mild example. I know there's so much nudity on just regular, TV channels, which have no restrictions, that it really puzzles you, and you really wonder, that this has all become normal, because it's happening so much that it's just accepted, and it's just becoming more and more normal for these things to happen. Whereas, maybe 50 years ago, if somebody, did some of these things, or if some of these programs were aired, people would be really shocked. And you can see, for example, even in terms of clothes, dress, right? If you see movies in the past, people are still modestly dressed. And as time has gone, like for example, you see the evolution of the swimsuit, right? It was very modest, and then gradually the swimsuit became almost like wearing nothing. So you can see how modesty has been eroded through time and through societies, and to the point where, for example, people who work in this profession, where they have, the more you take off, the more money you earn, right? And people who have like respectable, honorable professions, like teachers, doctors, engineers, they're earning much less than, for example, porn stars, or people who, like I said, are willing to show more flesh. So you can see the imbalance in the society now, and how things have changed and how things have really digressed. Now, there are two types of haya. There's a natural haya that everyone is born with. So all of us are born with a sense of shame or shyness. And what is the evidence of that? Where is the first time that we hear about shyness? When we talk about, shyness in the creation. Anybody?
Prophet Adam and Hawa.
Yes, very good, very good. So when Adam alayhi salam and Hawa, when they ate from the tree, what is the first thing that happened? Is that their garments fell, right? And they became conscientious of their nakedness, and they started grabbing leaves to cover themselves. And so that's the first time that you see the introduction of shyness, and that is the shyness that is from our fitra. It is a natural thing for us to cover ourselves. So although the West would like us to think that the natural thing is to be naked and to take everything off, and that is in keeping with nature, that's not true. Like if you take a child, whether he's Muslim or non-Muslim or from any household, and you pull his trousers down or you take his clothes off, he's going to get very uncomfortable. He's going to get embarrassed. He's going to try and cover himself. There's no child who has, not been what's the word I'm looking for? Polluted. A child whose mind has not been polluted, who will comfortably say, yeah, you can take everything off. I don't really care. I mean, you can see that our fitra is to be shy, to try and cover, to try and conceal ourselves, right? So that is the natural haya that we have. Then there's an acquired haya. What is the acquired haya? So that the acquired haya is the one that comes by realizing that Allah is always present and that Allah sees everything that we do. And this is a haya which we train ourselves to have. So you have to you have to try and teach yourself to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to constantly remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to to be conscientious that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is listening to me and Allah is watching me. And so that is something that you try and train yourself to have. Okay. So there are 3 ways to improve your level of shyness. So it's just, unfortunately, shyness and haya are dying characteristics. There's very few of us who can actually perhaps describe ourselves as being shy. Like when you say, think of 3 words that describe you. There's very few people who will actually be able to say that one of the things that describes me is shyness. Shyness is a dying virtue, and it is something that we need to inculcate in ourselves, in our children, and in the future generations, because it is so important. It is such a core characteristic that we must try and maintain in ourselves and in the following generations. So there are 3 main ways to increase your shyness or to improve your level of shyness. The first is to constantly remember Allah. Like I said, that if we are constantly conscientious that Allah is watching me, Allah can hear me, we will be conscientious of what we do. It will discourage us from sinning, and it will encourage us to do more good deeds. That's the first thing. So you will be ashamed to do anything that is displeasing to Allah. The second thing is that is to frequently remember the blessings of Allah. Why or how do you think that will help you to increase your shyness? By remembering Allah's blessings. How do you think that will affect us?
Gratitude.
Yes, very good. So imagine someone who constantly gives you gifts and gives you things and looks after you and is nice to you and hovers around you, right? So you just feel really almost like indebted, right? You feel like, when will I get a chance to do something for this person, right? So if you constantly remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings and Allah's ni'am that Allah has given us, you will be shy to use the blessings that Allah has given you to disobey Allah, right? You will be embarrassed and ashamed that Allah has given me so much. How can I now disobey Allah or not obey Allah's commands, right? You feel obliged to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that is the second way of trying to increase your shyness and your sense of shame. The third thing that helps to increase your sense of shame is being around people of modesty and shyness. Okay, so by being around people like that, you learn haya. Can anyone give me an example of an incident at the time of the Prophet ﷺ where you see the effects of being around people who are very shy? Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ was sitting one day and he was wearing his izar, which is the lower garment, like the wrap, and Aisha radiallahu anha was observing him. Yes, very good. Yes, someone's answered in the chat. I'll just mention the incident anyway. So the Prophet ﷺ was sitting and Aisha radiallahu anha was observing him, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came in and he greeted him and he sat down, and then Umar radiallahu anhu came in and he greeted him and he sat down, and then Uthman radiallahu anhu came in, and as he entered, the Prophet ﷺ, he got up and he straightened his izar, he lowered it, and because his izar was, I think it was over his thigh, and so he got up and he lowered it and he covered his thigh. And so Aisha radiallahu anha asked him, why is it that you did not adjust your garment when Abu Bakr came in radiallahu anhu and when Umar came in radiallahu anhu? And why did you adjust it when Uthman radiallahu anhu came in? And the Prophet ﷺ said that, how can I not be shy in front of a man from whom even the angels are shy? Or words to that effect, right? So you see that being in the company of someone who is extremely modest and extremely shy, it teaches you restraint, and it teaches you to be more conscientious, and it teaches you to be more careful about, for example, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're wearing, how you're dressed, right? And I guess you have all experienced this time to time, but I remember when I was in school, I never used to swear or use profane language, and but I went to a school where people were just regular people, and they would swear a lot. And I remember as soon as I'd walk into the room, they would just stop swearing, and they would just change their language and be really polite. And I also noticed, sometimes, I wouldn't get invited to certain events because people wanted to do certain things and they were just too embarrassed to do it in front of me. And so I'm just giving you this as an example that you can see that, maintaining a certain level of modesty and shyness is good in the sense that it also helps other people to try to give up, poor habits or poor characteristics and to try and, maintain good manners. So the next thing I want to talk about is the virtues of haya. I was hoping to try and finish this hadith. I'm not sure if we will be able to, but I will try to. Otherwise, we might have to carry it on next time, because I don't want to give you too much. So I hope that so far you are all with me. So far we've talked about haya and wara, or the connection between haya and iman, you could say, or taqwa. And we've talked about natural haya and acquired haya. And we said the natural haya is from the fitra, and the acquired haya is where you train yourself to be conscientious of Allah, to think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings and his ni'am, and you try to be around people who have haya to try and improve your level of haya. So to talk about the importance and the virtues of haya, I'm going to mention 4 ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he outlines the importance of haya. So the first one is al-haya wal-iman qurina jami'an فإذا رفع أحدهما رفع الآخر. Where the Prophet ﷺ said haya and iman are 2 companions that go together. If one of them is lifted, the other is also lifted. So again, this is the same concept that I have been, trying to teach you from the beginning, that haya and iman, they sort of go hand in hand. And if haya goes up, iman is up. Or if iman goes up, haya is high. If your iman goes down, your haya goes down, and so on and so forth. And haya is the thing that prevents sins, and your iman is the thing that pushes you to do good actions. And so together you can see that they form a key component of your deen, right? Preventing you from sinning is haya, and then encouraging you to do good actions is your iman. And Ibn al-Qayyim, he said that the best way to increase your iman is to avoid sins. And what did we say helps you to avoid sins? It's haya. So you can see how iman depends on haya, Because to increase your iman, you need to decrease your sins, and to decrease your sins, you need haya. You need that sense of shame to be doing those bad actions, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much, right? He gave us our life, He gave us our limbs, our faculties. How can we use those blessings that Allah has given us to disobey Allah with them? So this is something that we should be ashamed to do. And that's where haya comes in. So Sufyan al-Thawri even went as far as saying that he was prevented from qiyam due to his sins. So he used to pray qiyamul layl, and then for a while he was unable to pray qiyamul layl. And he said that was the result of his sins, that his sins had prevented him from being able to, worship Allah in the middle of the night. So he said that he was prevented from qiyam due to the sins committed during the day. And so you can see how, again, haya is so important, because it protects you and prevents you from sinning. And when you are, when your sins are low, then your ibadah is better, and your connection with Allah is better and stronger, and you're able to do, more good actions. Okay. All right. So the second hadith that we will take to discuss this, the virtues of iman, where the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-imanu bid'un wa sab'una aw bid'un wa sittuna shu'batan فأفضلها قول لا إله إلا الله وأدناها إماتة الأذى عن الطريق والحياء شعبة من الإيمان. Iman has 70 some odd or 60 some odd branches. The most virtuous of them is the statement La ilaha illallah, and the slightest of them is to remove something harmful from the road. And haya is a branch of Iman. This is recorded by Bukhari and Muslim. So basically this hadith is saying that there are many doors to doing good, right? Because it's saying that Iman has 70 or 60 some odd branches. So it has many doors of good, right? There's not just one or two things that you can do. You can fast, you can pray, you can give zakah, you can help someone, you can remove something harmful. So according to this hadith, the highest thing you can do is La ilaha illallah, and the lowest thing is to remove something harmful from the path or the road. Why do you think La ilaha illallah is the highest? Anyone?
Because there's a hadith now, sister. The whole world, what is in the heaven and sky on one scale, and you have the taqwa and la ilaha illallah. That is more heavier.
Yes, so basically La ilaha illallah is our deen, right? It is our way of life. It is the thing that, it is our submission to Allah. It's basically the key, right? With La ilaha illallah you enter Jannah. Without La ilaha illallah you enter the Nar. So it's you can see it's the most key component of our iman is La ilaha illallah. So that's the highest thing. And then the lowest thing, like we said, is to, even if you're to remove something from the path, that is the lowest level of iman. And one of the important things that the Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith is وَالْحَيَاءُ شُعْبَةٌ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. He's saying that shyness is a component or a part of iman, or it's a branch of iman. Okay. And so you can see that one of the ways for us to get closer to Allah is by instilling shyness in ourselves. Okay, so by being shy, we will fulfill one of the branches of Iman. And Iman, as you know, it goes up and down. So if you add the component of shyness, it will help your Iman to go up. And when your Iman goes up, it means that you're closer to Allah, that you are pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, in one of the greatest blessings in Jannah is what?
To see the face of Allah.
That's right, is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? When you do these actions, whatever it might be, like, let's say removing something from you're walking on the road and you see that you see there's a blob of gum on the road, like chewing gum, right? Now you know that somebody is going to step on this and then it's going to get stuck on their shoe or their clothes or their garment. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but it is such a nuisance and it is so difficult to get gum off your clothes or your shoe, right? And so you see this piece of gum on the road and then you look around and you think, okay, let me get some tissue or some rock or something and place it on top of this piece of gum so that when other people walk down the same path, they don't get harmed by this gum, okay? Now, you would think this is a small action, right? You have not moved a mountain, right? You've taken some piece of tissue or stone or something and just placed it on top of this piece of gum so that it doesn't harm anyone on the road. Now, we don't know which of our actions weighs extremely heavy in the sight of Allah. And we don't know which of those actions that we do that we consider to be a small, minor thing, but it was so great in the sight of Allah and it was so pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we earned some extra moments to be in Allah's presence in Jannah, that we earn some extra time to spend with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. So imagine, that here you are in the dunya, just doing this, what you would think is a very regular thing. But it might be something so big in the sight of Allah. So we don't know which of our actions are big in the sight of Allah, which of them are small. We might do big things and think, oh, this is going to be big, but it might be something really small. And we might do something really small, but that might be the thing that gives us that extra time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. Or it gives us, Allah's pleasure. Or it sometimes it's the thing that makes or breaks, where you are and what you are doing. In terms of your akhirah. So, just to give you an example, like, for example, Zulaykha, she was the wife of Al-Hajjaj. And she had the well of Zamzam dug up and reopened. So the well of Zamzam had become blocked and covered with sand. And so she had this well dug up and reopened. And now opening the well of Zamzam means providing water for all the mu'tamirin and the hajjaj, right? Everyone who's coming for Hajj or Umrah, they get access to Zamzam water. Now, is that a big action or a small action? It's a great action, right? However, when she passed away, someone had a dream and they saw Zulaykha in their dream. And she said that my action of opening the well of Zamzam is not what helped me in my grave. But she said the 2 rakahs that I used to do in the middle of the night, that is the thing that is helping me here. So you see, what I'm trying to say is that was her name Zubaydah? I thought her name was Zulaykha. So maybe maybe I'm mixing up her name. But she was the wife of Hajjaj. So what I'm trying to say here is that it doesn't matter how we judge that action. So in our sight, an action might be really big, but that doesn't mean that in the sight of Allah it is big. Or an action in our sight might be small and minor, but that does not mean that it is minor in the sight of Allah. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't belittle anything And anything that we can do, right, is it is something that it doesn't matter the size of the action, which is what I'm trying to say, is that don't belittle the action and don't worry about the nature of that action. As long as it is a good action, do it and hope for your reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I said, we don't know, last time when we talked about Jannah and the descriptions of Jannah, and we talked about people in Jannah will be on their beds and they will be flying on their beds. And when two people meet while they are flying in Jannah on their beds, and these are people who knew each other in the dunya, they will ask each other that, do you know what got you Jannah? Do you know what action earned you Jannah? And then they will mention, that, oh yeah, I did such and such thing. And it might be a really small thing. You didn't even think about it. Like, the hadith about the prostitute who gave water to the dog, right? And she gets Jannah for that. So I'm just saying that we don't know, what is going to earn us Jannah. And so, like this hadith says that Iman has so many branches. So there are so many doors of good. So try and enter through as many doors of good as you can. Don't limit yourself and don't think that, oh, removing this from the street is a small thing. It's not really, what's the point of doing that? Or helping someone, or smiling at someone, or saying a good word to someone, or covering for someone. Anything that you can do that is a good deed, do it. Because you don't know what is going to be so great in the sight of Allah that it will earn you Allah's rahmah, Allah's mercy, and you will get Jannah, and you will maybe get more time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, or to be in Allah's presence, to earn Allah's pleasure, right? So these are just things to keep in your mind. Okay. The last hadith I want to share with you about, I did not read the meaning of this hadith. We've done that hadith. The third one that I want to tell you. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-haya'u min al-iman, wal-imanu fil jannah, wal-bada'u min al-jafa, wal-jafa'u fil nar. Haya is part of Iman, and Iman is in paradise. Lewdness is part of hardness of heart, and hardness of heart is in the fire. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying here that, again, the connection between haya and Iman, that haya is part of Iman, and Iman is in Jannah. So this is a really perfect equation. Haya, Iman equals Jannah. And then you have lewdness, which is bada. Lewdness is part of hardness of the heart, and hardness of the heart is in the fire. So that's where everything goes wrong, right? So basically, when your shyness is taken away and you can do shameful things and not really think about it, and it doesn't bother you to do shameful actions anymore, then, may Allah protect us, but maybe we're heading towards the hellfire. Because now we've come to a point where we don't really care. We do things, we do actions, but we don't really care. Is this pleasing to Allah? Is this something shameful? Is this something honorable? It doesn't even bother us. We don't even think about that. So when you come to that point where now you're indifferent to, good and bad, to shamefulness and honor, now you might be on a path to the hellfire, because basically shyness has left you, which means your heart is dead and your Iman must be in a very, very bad state. Okay? So, and also the Prophet ﷺ said, lewdness does not appear in anything except that it blemishes it, and haya does not appear in anything except that it beautifies it. Okay. The fourth hadith I wanted to share with you is Inna likulli dinin khuluqan وَإِنَّ خُلُقَ الْإِسْلَامِ الْحَيَاءُ. Every religion has a particular manner or characteristic, and the characteristic of Islam is haya. Now this is again a very, very key statement, talking about haya and putting haya again in a very, very high place in our religion. So here the Prophet ﷺ is saying that every religion has a predominant characteristic, so for example, when you think of Christianity or Judaism, they all have like key characteristics. The key characteristic of Islam is haya, is shyness and modesty, right? And you can see that, why it is haya that is a key characteristic of this religion, because it completes, a person's noble character, right? So this is a very key trait. And again, like I said, it's a dying trait. There's very few of us who identify with it, or who would describe ourselves with it, or who would describe our, family members with it. It's almost becoming like a lost trait. Very few people are actually shy and, possess shyness. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said, haya does not produce but goodness. Al-haya'u la ya'ti illa bi khair. Okay, so we talked about a Sahabi who was very shy, right? We talked about Uthman radiallahu anhu. He was extremely shy, and the Prophet ﷺ would be, very careful in front of him because of his shyness. Can you tell me of a prophet who is known to be very, very shy?
Musa alayhi salam.
Very good. Yes, very good. So he was so shy, when he would bathe with his clothes on. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Musa kana rajulan hayyan sittiran la yura min jildihi shay'un istihya'an minhu. Moses was a modest, bashful person. No part of his skin was seen due to his shyness. Now, of course, at that time, people would bathe in the river, or they would bathe in an open area. They would move away from the city or the people, and then they would bathe in an open area. So you can see why it was encouraged to keep something on when you're bathing, because anybody could suddenly come in and see you. I mean, nowadays, of course, it doesn't apply, because we are in a closed area when we're showering. So even if we took everything off, it's not like somebody would suddenly come in. But you can see why he would keep his clothes on. It is said that they had not even seen his the skin on his arms, and they started accusing him and saying that he's got this he had this skin condition called vitiligo, and they said that he's got this thing, that's why he doesn't let anybody see his skin, because he's ashamed. And then there are two versions of it. One is, I think, that the ants took his clothes away, and one is that the stone walked away, and then he came out and they saw him and they saw that he was perfect. There was nothing wrong with him, but he was just very shy. The Prophet ﷺ is also known to have been very, very shy. There's a hadith which says that the Prophet ﷺ was more shy than the virgin girls kept in their private compartments. If he saw anything he did not like, we would recognize it by the expression on his face. So the Prophet ﷺ was also very, very shy. Okay, so it is 9:40 now, and I just wanted to cover a couple of points, and I would like to cover them. Hopefully I can try and do it in 10 minutes so that we can complete the hadith. So if you can just bear with me for another few minutes, inshallah. So haya is also something that is one of the attributes of Allah, and there is a statement of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, Inna Allaha Azza wa Jal hayyi'un sittirun yuhibbul haya was satar فإذا اغتسل أحدكم فليستتر. So the Prophet ﷺ said, verily Allah has the attributes of great modesty and concealment, and he loves modesty and concealment. Therefore, if any of you is going to wash himself, basically bathe yourself, then he should conceal himself. So again, like I explained, that this is applying more to, when you're bathing in an open area, in an open space, or in the river or in the water, where, anybody can turn up. But of course, when you're in your private, area, then it's okay. So Ibn al-Qayyim, he said some very profound words about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said that whoever has the same attribute as one of the attributes of Allah, that attribute will lead the person by its tight reins. It will allow him to enter upon his Lord and bring him closer to his mercy. He will become beloved to Allah. This is because Allah is merciful and He loves those who are merciful. He is generous and He loves those who are generous. He is all-knowing and He loves those with knowledge. He is strong and He loves the strong believer, who is more beloved to Him than the weak believer. He is Hayy, the one with extreme haya, and He loves the people of haya. He is beautiful and He loves the people of beauty. He is odd, the one being an odd number, and He loves the people who perform the prayer with the odd number of rakahs. So this statement is basically saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certain attributes, and when we take on some of these attributes, we become more beloved to Allah, and these attributes benefit us, and we become closer to Allah. Okay? So, and as you can see, he's mentioned a few attributes like mercy and beauty and knowledge. One of the main ones, generosity. One of the main ones he's mentioned is haya. And so haya is a characteristic of Allah, and if we take it on and we try to inculcate this habit into our lives, then we might be people who become more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we will become closer to Allah by taking on a characteristic that is His. Okay. So the first thing is that Allah is, He has the attribute of modesty and concealment. The second thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a hijab of light. So when the Prophet ﷺ went on the Miraj and he came back, Aisha radiallahu anha asked him, "Did you see Allah?" And he said, "How could I see Him when He had this hijab of nur, of light?" Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this hijab of light which prevents the creation from seeing Him right now. And the third thing, does anybody remember any narration which mentions that Allah is shy? Anyone?
Allah is shy when we do dua, when we
Yes, excellent. So when we make dua, Allah is shy to turn, to return our hands without fulfilling our request. So when you put your hands up to ask Allah, Allah is shy to, for you to return your hands without Him fulfilling your request. So you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shy to, turn you away empty-handed, basically. Okay. Another point that I want to mention to you is that it is very important that we maintain shyness in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much more than we maintain shyness in front of people. Because a lot of the times you'll notice that we're very shy in front of people, so we try to be on our best behavior. But when we're on our own, we have some really terrible traits which come out. So really when we're on our own is when we are in the presence of Allah, and that is when we should really be on our best behavior. And when we are, with people, yes, it's good to be on good behavior, but real virtuousness is when you try to maintain good behavior on your own, when you are technically in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Okay. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention to you is what does not form part of praiseworthy shyness. So when is it not good or not right for you to be shy? When is it wrong for you to be shy? Okay. Anybody want to take a guess or have any idea? When do you think it would be wrong to be shy?
When people are going against the deen.
Very good. Yes. So when you see something wrong or something bad happening, that's right. Somebody's answered in the chat as well. And you are shy to stop them or advise them or do amar bil maruf or nahi anil munkar. This is the wrong place to be shy. This is where you should be able to speak out. And as you know, the Prophet ﷺ, right, he said that this is one of the best forms of jihad is to speak the truth in the presence of the oppressor. So this is not the time for shyness. Also, you know, sometimes you're outside and the time for salah is going and you say, oh, I'm not going to pray in the parking lot, or I'm not going to pray on the pavement because I'm shy. Somebody's going to see me praying. This is a good time to, it's almost like a form of dawah, right? When you stand and do salah and people look at you, they see that, oh, this is a Muslim. This is what they do. They just pray, you know. So this is not the time to be shy, and you should be, you know, confident and you should be keen to you know, do the right thing and spread the right message. So yeah, somebody's saying that, you know, it is hard to speak up at that time. Yes, it is hard, and that's why the reward is great. But this is really something that we need to work on, and it's not just hard on us. There were companions who said that we knew the truth, but we struggled to speak it, and they said we felt very bad about it. So it's a natural thing that when you are about to speak out about something, that you cower down and you become embarrassed, or you become shy, and you know, almost like, you know, you're unable to do it. So, you know, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, ألا لا يمنع رجلا هيبة الناس أن يقول بحق إذا علمه. Verily, fear of the people must not keep one from speaking a truth he knows. After narrating this hadith, Abu Sa'id said, we have seen things, but we feared the people, and therefore we remained silent. And then he started crying. This is Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. This is a Sahabi. So, you see, what I'm trying to tell you is that, yes, it is a natural thing for us to become scared, to become shy, to become embarrassed, to know the right thing, and to know that I should say it, I should point it out, but to just like, you know, hold it back. And, you know, but this is not a praiseworthy fear. It's not a praiseworthy shyness. It would be praiseworthy if you were to speak the truth at this time. Whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish us for this silence or not, Allahu alam. Allah knows best. Allah knows our situation. And, you know, at least don't speak something incorrect. I guess, you know, keeping silent, Allahu alam, you know, but as much as possible, we should try and speak out. So we shouldn't have this is the wrong place to have haya. And, you know, they described it as being cowardice and treachery. So cowardice we can understand, that we just become shy and become scared. Why do you think it's referred to as treachery when you don't speak the truth? Why is it treachery? This is a very, very key and important point here.
Betraying our religion?
Yes, so basically you have a covenant or a promise with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You have a contract with Allah that you will command the good and forbid the evil. But right now you are betraying that covenant And instead of being fearful of Allah, you're being fearful of the people. That's what's preventing you from speaking out. Your fear of people is preventing you from speaking out. And that's treachery. Because your contract is with Allah. It's not with the people. Right? So you have cowardice. So you become scared. And you know, you're not brave enough or courageous enough to speak out. And you're also committing treachery, because now you are not fulfilling your contract with Allah, and you are, instead of fearing Allah, you're fearing the people. And this could be very dangerous. You know, so and so so two types of incorrect shyness. One is when it prevents you from enjoining good and forbidding evil, and two is when it prevents you from seeking knowledge by asking inappropriate questions. So you might want to learn more about your deen or clarify something, but you're shy and embarrassed, so you don't ask. So you carry on doing something that's wrong or incorrect. And this shyness in this place is not a good thing. It's not a praiseworthy trait. So, you know, the people, they would come and they would ask the Prophet ﷺ some very, very detailed questions. Like there were women, they would come and ask him about menstruation, and they would ask him very detailed questions about smell, about color, about wet dreams for women. You know, things which you would have thought are you know, something that we would be embarrassed about. But there is no shyness in religion, especially when you want to learn something and when you want to, you know, clarify something like that. You must ask. You can't be shy at that time. Okay? So these are the two places where it is incorrect to be shy. When you want to learn or clarify something about your religion, and two, when you want to command the good and forbid the evil. And, you know, imagine if the Sahabiyat had not asked these embarrassing questions, or the Sahaba had not asked these embarrassing questions, there are so many things about our deen we would not have learned. You know, so many things have come down to us through their questions and answers, right? So if they had become shy and not asked, then, you know, we would have also suffered. It would have been a great loss for us. So that's basically all I wanted to, you know, share with you. Just some closing comments that I want to make is, you know, haya is a sign that a person's soul is healthy. So a person who lacks haya, they really need to question themselves. They need to look inside themselves. They need to work on their soul and improve their level of their iman and their wara and their conscientiousness of Allah and their taqwa. If you feel that you don't have enough haya, you must work on it. And I've given you some points of how to improve your level of haya. Can anyone repeat what those 3 points are of how to improve your haya?
Constantly remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
Frequently remember Allah's blessings.
Yes.
And to be around people who have modesty and shyness.
Yes, very good. There is also a direct connection between haya and ihsan. Again, ihsan is worshipping Allah as if you see him, and if you don't see him, he sees you. So you can see how haya is connected with ihsan, right? Because haya is the thing that, again, it encourages you to do good things and protects you from doing sins. And that is all, again, based on being conscientious of Allah. So it's connected to ihsan. Of course, you know, haya goes up and down. So it will go up when you are conscientious of Allah, when you are amongst good company and good people and good practices. When you start surrounding yourself with poor practices, naturally your haya will start to go down. And it doesn't go down immediately, but gradually, you know, the first time, the second time, you know, you feel a little bit less embarrassed. Then the fourth time, you know, you feel even less embarrassed. Until the fifth or sixth time, you don't even think about what you're doing anymore. It just, you know, your haya is completely gone, right? So we must be careful with, especially with our children, that we don't put them in a situation which causes their haya to go down, which basically breaks it down piece by piece until there is no haya left. So we must make sure that we preserve a decent environment for our children where we can nurture this haya, where we can, make it better and improve it, and not, take it away and cause it to digress or disappear. So it's very, very important that we should teach our children haya. Of course, after we teach ourselves. It's our really our soul that tells us that, you can't do this is shameful, or this is bad, and like Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَّامَةِ. Nafs al-lawama is the reproaching soul, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only swears by things which are really great and important. So you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by the reproaching soul, or the soul that corrects you or pulls you away from bad and tells you not to do this or not to do that. So you can see that shyness is so important to the soul, so that it can reproach you, right? Because when your soul doesn't do that anymore, then you become really, really lax in whatever you're doing. You don't think twice about it. So with that, we come to the end, and again, the characteristic of haya has been encouraged by all the Anbiya coming down to the Prophet ﷺ, and we have been encouraged by the Prophet ﷺ to, inculcate this characteristic in ourselves. And this is something that we need to first teach ourselves, and then try and, teach our children, and try to, improve whatever level of haya we have at the moment. We need to try and improve it and increase it and make it better and make it thrive, and, bring it to a better level. Because the higher our haya, the better will be the quality of our iman and our other actions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who have haya and who are able to improve our taqwa and our iman and our deen and our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through increasing our haya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from sins and increase our opportunities and our ability to do good actions, and those actions which are most pleasing to Him. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this gathering a source of expiation from our sins and forgive us, and make us amongst those who will meet Him and who will be in His presence, and who will be able to see Him and speak to Him on the in Jannah, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. If there's any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, you are welcome to leave. Sorry that this was very long. Inshallah, next week we will try and carry on with the Battle of Badr. So yes, I think maybe the wife of Hajjaj, her name was Zubaydah, because some people have said that in the chat. So please correct that if I mentioned mentioned another name. Okay, so Barakallahu feekum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, we will see you again next week. Jazakallahu Khairan again for joining. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for making time for this, and put barakah in your time, and make this a source for us to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, with that I will end the meeting. Barakallahu feekum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.